Yep. BC Housing has already been caught for fraud. Wouldn't disclose their salaries. Hid financial statements intentionally, and then refused to, provide them. And now there's employees coming forward from workplace bullying. Well, some of the genuine employees are not the only ones that are getting targeted by other malicious employees that work at BC Housing, because it also happened to me, and I made a video about it. And for over a 30-day period, they intentionally, maliciously, they lied multiple times in a row. And I was able to prove that because, if you're interested to know about that, you can watch the other video. I'll link it at the end of this one. Basically what happened is they intentionally were messing with my file. And they were saying they were updating my address and updating my documents that I had to upload several times in a row. Because each time that I filled out the documents and then sent it to them, they said, "Oh, you have to resend it." Just really didn't have any reason why. It was just a play that they're playing. You know what I mean? And 4 different staff said they updated my file, updated my address, updated my documents, and they didn't. And my anyways, go watch the video. But they were doing it on purpose, and they were getting a kick out of it, thought it was funny. And they were all working in synchronized order together. There was 4 different staff, and they're all there talking, hanging out, you know what I mean? Like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. You say you updated his file and updated his address, right? And then say, but now I'm on vacation, I'm on leave, so you won't be able to respond to this email. Click. They turn on the vacation automatic reply email, which you get as a feature with a business email. And so they'll say, send us your documents again for whatever reason. Okay, I'll just keep doing this over and over again if you guys want, no problem, Like, bottom line is, they knew what they were doing, right? So once they emailed me, told me to do that, they would put their vacation email on, and then I wasn't able to reply to them. And then they would forward me to another staff and forward that email in that email. And then that staff would say, "Oh, you're going to have to re-upload your documents again. Sorry." Okay, no problem. I'll do it again. Sure, let's keep going. You know what I'm saying? I do it again. I send it to them. Then they're like, "Oh, that was the wrong portal. You're supposed, even though they're the ones that sent me to that portal to upload it, right?" Okay. And then they're like, "Sorry, you're going to have to do it again, but I'm on leave in a week and I'm no longer working for BC Housing." Click, turn the auto reply, vacation autoresponder email thing on, and then I email them back and I get an automated response saying, "No, I'm not at my desk anymore. I'm not at the office until August 1st. That's like months away. So they're trying to delay my payment, which is a rental supplement that pays $450 of my rent, because I was homeless for 7 years out here. And there was support for that, and there is no affordable rent out here. Even if you're working full-time, which if you're homeless, try working full-time while you're sleeping outside on a bench and getting up every day and not being able to shower, because the places that offer showers are open during work hours. So you either get 2 options. You either have a shower today and you don't go to work, or you go to work and you don't have a shower, and then you get to sleep on a bench, and you have to do that for 2 weeks straight until you get your first check. And then you're gonna have to settle, you're probably hanging on by a thread of life at that point, right? So that money is not going to be enough to get a place, or even put nowhere near enough to get a place. So now you got to do that for another 2 weeks, and that's only if you weren't to spend like pretty much $1 out of that first check after you've just barely survived for 2 weeks with no shower, sleeping outside, People are stealing your clothes and your tent and everything else. The shelter is just full of sick shit going on and abusive staff. So, your only option is to literally, you have no option. You're done. It's over, you're gonna end up in the hospital sick with pneumonia from being outside and not being able to shower. Like, you're just gonna die. Like, and they know that, and they've built it like that intentionally, the entire system out here around homelessness. So anyways, is it that far-fetched hearing that and seeing the headlines of BC Housing, malicious employees, and the entire enterprise has been caught for fraud? Like, they've literally been committing fraud for decades, and and they won't provide the income statements to prove that they haven't been committing fraud. So that way the law can't fully be like, okay, see, yeah, there you go, there's the money that's missing, or here's what you did here. They won't even give that to them, because they know if they do, they're going to get hammered by the law, and then they're going to be, shut down for, fraudulent activities and, stuff like that. So anyways, so here's the thing, right? Is it that far-fetched to think that these other organizations and nonprofits and shelters and, poverty relief enterprises aren't doing the same thing? Well, do they have any affiliation with each other? Do they have any connections? Are the employees at BC Housing affiliated with the employees at, or management or CEOs of our place? Yeah, actually they are. Well, that's interesting. And our place is affiliated with the coalition, and the coalition's affiliated with ARC, the Salvation Army. And they're all like literally individuals, not just organization to organization. We're talking about individuals, people that are working in all of these organizations that are friends with individuals that are working in the other organizations. So if you make an enemy with one of these people from one of these organizations, well, they can talk to their friend that works over there at BC Housing and be like, hey, fuck with this guy a little bit, make sure his money's delayed, so that way he doesn't pay his rent on time, and that way he goes back to homelessness. And that way, since he's exposed our entire pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme enterprise, he will have nowhere to seek refuge. He'll have nowhere to get resources, right? They think that I need to rely on these places or something. Like, they don't have any idea who I am and what I'm capable of doing, apparently. And they underestimated that from the jump when they were being abusive and malicious towards me while I was homeless. And I noted and documented everything, because I knew one day I would get out and I would get my foot in the door, and I would infiltrate these organizations and expose them from the inside out, from their internals, their inner workings, and how they operate. I needed more. I needed to see more, right? So I did that. And it was exactly what I always thought it to be, but I just didn't actually see it, the proof, because the law protects this stuff. There's legal loopholes that they operate through that allow them to tread lightly and do these things, commit fraud in legal ways, believe it or not. Now, there is a little bit of, some things are a little bit illegal and a little bit not illegal, and that's okay, because the charity data that handles all their financial revenue data yearly, which is falsely generated, and they're lying. They're lying on their revenue generated and their expenditures, especially the expenditures. But charity data is the one that handles all that financial revenue data for all of these nonprofits and organizations, and nonprofits, charities, stuff like that, right? And the person that runs charity data is the same person that runs the charity criminal law entity, which deals with law around nonprofit organizations and charities and so on and so forth. And who owns that? Well, Mark Bloomberg does. And who's Mark Bloomberg? Well, he's a lawyer. He's a lawyer, yeah. So they have their whole system very well established, right? So if they do get caught for anything legal, well, that's no issue, because there's a lawyer, probably one of the biggest lawyers in Canada, out of Toronto, that owns both entities that deal with their financial revenue. And he's a lawyer, and he specifically specializes in defending nonprofits, charities, and organizations affiliated or related to those things, homelessness and social issues and stuff, nonprofits and charities, right? So if they do get caught, then they got him, because it all comes back to him. But he actually named everything under his brother's name, and his brother is deceased. So if you were to try to even go after him legally, well, he's a lawyer. He knows every single legal loophole there is in the system to manipulate, bend, break, whatever. And there's corrupt judges and stuff. They can split some money and just say, hey, throw this case out or whatever, okay, no problem. Yeah, we'll get rid of that. Money talks, and this guy is extremely rich. He has over 85,000 nonprofits and charities through his entity, which is Charity Data and Charity Criminal Law entity, whatever you want to call it. And those are the two entities that deal with all of the nonprofits and charities in Victoria, BC. So you're going to start to see these people start slowly getting caught, and you're going to see legal issues and stuff. They'll probably get off on most of it. They'll probably get away with it because they have the legal system to do so. And the government is also involved. And that gets a little bit more extreme and a little bit more complicated to get into, because you might not logically understand that, because you might be like, well, how does that make any sense? The government has to distribute hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars around these social issues. It all goes back into their pocket. It's called money laundering. And they have a system that actually allows that flow of currency to actually be distributed through all these nonprofits and organizations and charities, and then go right back into the government's pocket, plus interest, plus tax and everything else. And it's very complex. It's something that a normal person is not just going to be able to explain to you. These people go to university and college and get degrees to learn these systems, these legal systems, okay? And you're not just going to figure it out, all right? Okay? This has been going on for 100 years, you know what I'm saying? So it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. Like, I should probably have a degree at this point, if not be getting paid. You know what I'm saying? So it's really like that, eh? It really is. So bottom line is that Victoria, BC, and British Columbia in general is creating business out of homelessness, out of mental health and addiction. The government is contributing to it. And they're creating more poverty, homelessness, and addiction and mental health intentionally to increase the demand, so that way they can say, hey, there is a increased demand for these social issues, and now we need to request another $100 billion from the federal government. So now the government goes to the federal government. So this is how far this shit goes, bro. This is how far it goes. It started at a small, it started me working for these nonprofits and organizations, and because I actually wanted to do something meaningful. I didn't know that they were malicious. I had a bad feeling, and I could see the systematic corruption that I experienced while going through homelessness and how the system was designed. But they made it seem like they were willing to take input from people that have been homeless for 15 years and even employ you and even get you funding to run programs around poverty reduction or poverty relief and all this stuff. But they really just got me in there just to use me for my ideas, kick me to the curb, and then go apply for funding for my idea and grease their pockets up and put money in their pockets. So once I experienced that and I knew it was real, finally, once I went through all these different organizations, I won't say their names because they already want to charge me for slander and defamation and sue me and all kinds of stuff. Not like they would get anything, obviously, but I think their time is coming. I think karma's coming. I think they're swinging on their way out. You know what I'm saying? They know they're going down, the ship's going down, and they're swinging, trying to take everything out on the way down. You know what I'm saying? But the coalition changed their name after I exposed them and certain individuals within it. The individual that was with the coalition ended up going somewhere else after that. That same individual was trying to get information out of me. They were attempting to get near me, get close to me, befriend me in order to socially engineer me for information that they could use to apply for more funding to get, because these people have never been homeless, but they're advocating for the homeless, and they're collecting and advertising and running fundraising for millions of dollars around homelessness, but they've never been homeless, and they've admitted it. But then they'll go and say, oh, well, I got trauma, and they don't really have trauma, and they grew up in the suburbs, and they grew up on an island in BC, the nicest place you could possibly grow up, safest place you can grow up in Canada. As much as BC thinks that they're gangster and how bad it is over here, like, the worst thing about out here in BC is drugs and the corrupt government. That's the two worst things out here. I'm not scared of getting punched, stabbed, shot, or anything like that, and I've been out here in the streets for 7 years plus, and it's never gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not dangerous. 7 years out there where I come from, I would have had a bunch of scars, probably be dead already. You know what I'm saying? I would have had a stab wound in my face, stab wound in my gut, gunshot to the arm, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's wild out there. Like, it's you know what I'm saying? Like, it's nuts. You can get shot for no reason. Like, just go to the wrong side of Toronto or Hamilton and just wear the wrong color. You'll get stomped, punched, you get beat up and ran off the block, period. It happened to me all the time when I was young, man. Like, I had to fight, I had to get a gun, I had to get weapons, I had to, do things that were just insane. Obviously, now that I'm out of that, I realize that's not reality and that's not life, and I don't have to live like that. And I already dominated it. I won. I beat all my enemies. You know what I'm saying? I took a couple lumps. No big deal. You gotta take some to give some, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But I won. You know what I'm saying? I won it all. But in the end of the day, right? So this is crazy, right? Like, I'm trying to get it off as much as I can, right? With not making too much of a long video. But the point was about the BC housing thing is that if they're getting caught for fraud and it's being put on the news, and they got employees coming forward and making serious claims about other employees and management and stuff like that, about workplace harassment and abuse, targeting, all kinds of maliciousness, right? Is it that far-fetched to think that these other charities and organizations that I'm calling out, saying this about, for those that don't believe me and that can't wrap their head around that, they see no logic in what I'm saying. I didn't see any logic when I was going through it. It didn't make any sense. It was difficult to understand, and it was actually very bad for your mental health, because there is no logic behind it. But you have to investigate it for a long period of time. You have to go through the 10 years of homelessness out here to experience it and actually unfold everything that's going on, which is what I did. And it blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. You can't make this shit up. You just can't. It's too sophisticated, too organized, and too intelligent. You just can't make this shit up. So I just couldn't understand it from that perspective, being a homeless person, why these people that are working for these places that are supposed to be helping people like me and people that are going through, whatever, homelessness, how are they the ones that are being abusive to the same people, marginalized people that they're supposed to be representing and helping? That was just the most evil thing I've ever experienced, right? And these guys are pussies, right? Like they're soft, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, wow. And they actually think they're gangsters. Like, they think they're doing something real tough, and they're laughing with their friends, aha, and they think it's all funny, and they're, celebrating with their millions that they made off of the blood, sweat, and tears of the homeless. But, whatever. Crazy, man. But point being is that you're gonna start seeing, man, you're gonna start seeing it for real now. Like, I think there's some of them are gonna start getting knocked down. I think there's gonna be some court cases. I think there's gonna be some publications. There's gonna be some headlines on the news, you know what I'm saying, of people getting caught for fraud, man. And they're all gonna run away right now because they know it's coming. They know that it's coming, right? They see it. They see what's happening in BC housing. They're getting shook now, and they're trying to hide, and they're trying to clean up all their loose ends, and they're trying to get rid of any potential whistleblowers and hire other people that, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're trying to clean up shop before it comes down on them and there's some type of evidence that can be used against them. So they're trying to clean up right now. That's why the coalition changed their name, rebranded themselves, because of me and my website. It's no mistake. They've had that name for decades, and then all of a sudden I started exposing them, calling them out, putting the name of their coalition on my website, which shows up on Google, and paying for Google ads to make sure that my website pops up when people search for the coalition to end homelessness. That's what made them switch their name. They don't realize that I can just readjust all of my campaigns to just target that same key word or key phrase, or it's funny, man, but they're trying to escape it. Their money's going down. The federal government refused. It did not add a budget for this year for homelessness, for the pretty much like, I don't even know, like I'm not sure if it was for all of Canada or if it was just for British Columbia or whatever, but it does say something to me with everything else that I know. It says that these cockroaches and little leeches have come up with this pyramid scheme on such a mass scale that it's got to that level where where does all the money come from? Is it coming from the government, federal government? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand government as well as I should if I'm going to be involved in this type of stuff. I need to educate myself more, but from what I've learned so far, right, there's the government, you know what I'm saying, there's federal government. There's so many layers and levels to it, man. It's crazy. They have this entire complex system that they've developed and built in order to overcomplicate things so that way the average person cannot keep up with what's going on, and they can't identify patterns because there's too many complexities. They make it overcomplicated so that way most people cannot keep up or figure out or infiltrate or do anything to figure out what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Once you get past all those walls or firewalls or and all of those fronts that they develop legally to protect themselves and hide themselves and protect and hide their activities and their intent, then it's wide open. You can just see it. It's just right there in your face, and it's undeniable. And then you're like, wow, like the level, bro, like the level of complexity that is involved in this shit. It's insane. But yeah, they're hitting the federal government up, and they're abusing that, and then the federal government's starting to figure out, okay, you guys are lying, you're raking billions and billions and billions of dollars out of us, out of the federal government, and nothing is happening. Like hundreds of billions of dollars towards homelessness and all these things that the federal government has been given, this government, BC government, whatever, right? Somebody's abusing it, right? So now they're like, okay, you're cut. You know what I mean? Like, you're not making no progress, you're lying. You know what I'm saying? Cut. You ain't getting a budget this year around homelessness. And you know why that happened? From the stupid fucking pieces of shit out here in BC and Victoria and stuff like that. These charities and organizations that have abused this funding and abused every aspect of these social issues for them to profit and for them to gain, and at the same time abuse the people they're supposed to be generating this money towards to help. Okay? That's the end. It's wrapped up. It's been revealed. It's been exposed. What type of if you want any more proof than that, you have to put the work in. You have to educate yourself. You have to learn how different layers of government work and how they're related to nonprofits and organizations and charities, and how charities operate and how the boards operate and what's behind the board. There's many layers, bro. It's insane. Okay, this is the system, and it all goes back to exactly what was called a huge conspiracy, right? The whole Illuminati thing and the Freemason thing, yeah, it went all the way to that. Okay, that's who we're dealing with here. Okay, the Coalition to End Homelessness, one of the CEOs that sent me an email used a quote and linked that quote in their email. And when I clicked on it, it went to a parent company of the coalition, and then I look and it says founded by the Rockefeller Foundation. Are you kidding me? Okay, makes perfect sense now. And then I go and look into these individuals, and I find out that they belong to Freemason lodges and stuff. And the Paul Harris Fellow thing and stuff like that, that's Freemason. It's a collective of Freemasons. And these are the people that are pretending to be heroes in the community and pretending to be doing this community work and saving lives and all this stuff and generating millions of dollars in the name of homelessness. And they're great, good people. These are the most deceitful people there are. And these are the elite, okay? And Victoria, BC is the head of that, and so is Ottawa. Anyways, I'll just wrap it up on that note.